This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Here today with Gareth A Davies. Gareth, really appreciate your time as always. And how is everything?
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm just pouring a coffee into a mug there. I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very, very good. All the better for being joined by yourself. Obviously, go straight into things. We're just coming off the back of a great weekend in Liverpool. Nick Ball defending his world title for the second time now. A bit of everything in the fight as well. Some tough moments for him, a bit of controversy. What did you make of the event as a whole, first of all?
I was great to be there. I was there with Talk Sport. It was a fabulous broadcast to be involved in. A lot of Liverpool talent. I think five or six Paul Stevenson fighters. I thought Brad Strand was a little bit unlucky. Um, do I mean Brad Strand? Yeah, I do. Yeah, against Jon Baluta. I thought Andrew Kane dominated Charlie Edwards. I didn't agree with a lot of the scoring. I had it 10 rounds to 2 or 9 rounds to 3 for Andrew Kane. I thought we saw a potential star in the making, certainly a very hot prospect in Jack Turner, 23, El Terrier, as he's known, in proper Scouse manner. And I thought after four troublesome rounds, I thought that Nick Ball dealt handily with TJ Doheny, and I think he bested him in the end and he beat him up and he dismantled him. I'm glad they pulled him out at the end of the 10th. I think 6 minutes of pain he didn't need to take. He was on, for me at that point, I think Doheny had won 6 in a row and was really dominating for me, and hurting him, busting him up. The knee at the end of the first round, after the bell, to his hamstring or thigh was a very rash, dangerous move at the time. Could have got him disqualified. Marcus McDonnell might have disqualified him. Mike Alexander saw to be more magnanimous, deducted him a point unnecessarily, I thought, later on, but might have been in his mind from earlier on. Very lucky not to be disqualified in some ways by certainly some referees. And it was a great night all around. Liverpool's such a fight city. Paddy's weekend. Everybody was out celebrating. Were the Liverpool fans going down to Wembley the next day? I think they were for the Newcastle game. So it was joy and merriment in Merseyside, on Merseyside, and it was brilliant to be there. I think for me, a long answer this to your one question, but for me, Nick Ball's got the capabilities to beat everyone else in the division. Angelo Leo, Stephen Fulton, very good fight. I can't remember the other one right now. Keep getting a mental block on.
Isn't no. I was going to say Espinoza.
It's Espinoza. Espinoza. I think he's got the beating of all of those purely through his relentless style. A couple of them might be slightly better boxers than him, but he's unrepentant and he's irresistible when he gets going. I spoke to him briefly for the broadcast afterwards when he was being mobbed by fans and for the with the microphone which got torn away. But he said it was frustration after that first round that made him do the knee. He's got to be careful about things like that because it could have gone another way and it would have been a horrendous night for him. But certainly one of the fighters of the year last year, and he's headed towards that already this year.
You mentioned the other champions at featherweight. We know there's another matchup that Frank Warren and a lot of us, the media and the fans, have mentioned for Nick Ball. But before we go on to talk about a certain Naoya Inoue, out of those three other champions at featherweight, which one do you believe creates the most fascinating matchup for both
Fulton.
fighters and fans?
Fulton, without any doubt. And Fulton's been in with Naoya Inoue as well, so he's following the trail, isn't he? I think Fulton was super bantam at the time,
Yes.
if I remember right. So, and Naoya Inoue dealt with him very, very handily. So, I think that's the fight because we know him. I like Fulton as well as a boxer. He's looked good of late. But I just think that's the fight that could happen. The great thing for Nick Ball is if Naoya Inoue, we know he's fighting in December and we know he's fighting in May. Yeah? He's going to fight in Riyadh in December, I think it is. And he's going to fight.
It's
It's
in Vegas.
America.
I believe
It's
it's Vegas.
Vegas,
Yeah, it's
America.
been
Yeah,
announced, hasn't it?
yeah. So that we got that Friday, Saturday, Sunday He's on a Sunday. We've got Canelo and Skull on the Saturday, and we've got the Times Square card with Garcia, Haney, and Lopez, just to name the A side of the promotion on the Friday. Pick your city. So I think if Naoya Inoue, and that's pretty soon. That's in what is it? 6 weeks time, 5 weeks time. So 6 weeks time. So the good thing is they're almost in sync. They could both have another fight, or he could have another fight and then fight Naoya Inoue in December. That's what Frank seemed to be indicating. Frank Warren seemed to be indicating on Saturday night when I spoke to him.
How do you see a matchup between Naoya Inoue and Nick Ball unfolding?
Would you want me to be brutally honest?
Yes.
I think I won't be forgiven by the Merseysiders and Nick Ball or even Paul Stevenson for saying this, but if he pulls off a victory against Naoya Inoue, I'd be very surprised. I think Naoya Inoue knows how to open the door. He needs when the doors ajar slightly, for the cracks are there to be able to see where you can land. And I'm taking nothing away from Nick here because I hope he does do it. But my honest opinion is I don't think he will. I don't think he'll beat Naoya Inoue. I think Naoya Inoue will punctuate him with big, heavy punches all night and bust him up and break him down. He may have a little bit of success, but he'll either get stopped late or outpointed handily.
Just moving away
What
from
do you think? Or are you allowed to say or not?
I don't know if I can say on that one because it's not an official fight yet. But it's an interesting fight. It's an in don't no the way I've explained this to people is I think if there's anyone that can deal with Nick Ball's pressure and almost create openings off his pressure, it is Inoue. We know how.
But and Doheny did it for 4 rounds anyway.
Mm,
Doheny was. Let's not forget how good Doheny was for 4 rounds. I mean, again, I spoke to Paul Stevenson afterwards, and he didn't agree with me. But I thought Doheny was spectacular for 4 rounds. He was standing on his toe with his right foot. He was creating the angles. He was creating the lines to land shots. And I gave him the first 4 rounds as Nick eased into his work. He's not going to have that leeway with Naoya Inoue. If Naoya Inoue finds openings, he's as spiteful as Nick is. And Paul didn't agree with me when I spoke to him afterwards. Paul Stevenson, he didn't agree that Nick was behind. But as I said, I said you're never going to agree with me. He's your guy. You know, they're like peas in a pod, those two. And don't get me wrong on this. I'm just offering an honest opinion. That's all I'm offering. I would love Nick to defeat Naoya Inoue and pull off one of the great British triumphs in a ring against a modern great. It would rank with Cal Brook beating people like Sean Porter. I mean, we've got a show out at the moment on Talk Sport, My Life in Boxing. Myself and Spencer Oliver. Sean Porter's out at the moment, or was it a week ago? Remember, that's a guy that beat Oleksandr Usyk in the amateurs, USA versus Ukraine. But no, so to get back to that point, I would love him to do it. I just think Naoya Inoue is very special, even coming up to a fifth weight division into the featherweight division, all the way from flyweight.
very respected opinion, Gareth. Moving away from that and picking your brains on some of the other big talking points. Friday evening, we saw the release of Piers Morgan Uncensored with both Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn featuring on there. I don't know if you've had the time to watch it yet, but if you have, what have your thoughts been from what you may have seen, just speculating on social media about it?
Well, my feed has been riddled with clips for days now, for 5 days, and I can't get away from it. I think I've seen most of it on clips. Certainly 5 or 6 clips, obviously they're the highlights. What do I make of it? A lot of pulling and pushing. Chris Eubank Jr. keeping to the narrative that the guy he's fighting is a drugs cheat and he's going to teach him a lesson. That's his line now. That's the line he's taken. He's repeated it, even to the point where he was saying that if he witnessed Conor Benn being held down and a syringe going into his backside, he'd still call him a drugs cheat because he's responsible for what goes into his body. That won't have been lost on you. I don't mean that thing, but that clip. I've seen Conor Benn having a go at Chris and his father about their relationship. I think Chris Eubank's holding steadfast to his game and he's backing himself with that one purportedly £1 million bet with Eddie Hearn saying he put the million in escrow because Eddie and Ben Shalom can't get the bet on because Ben Shalom's backed out. He wants a fiver or something, but Eddie's the big time. Eddie wants to do 1 million. I don't think they're able to do it, frankly. I mean, I don't think he should be doing it. I don't think it's a great selling point and a great headline. I don't think the Boxing Board of Control. I think they'd outlaw it if they were like as licensed fighters and promoters. I don't think they're going to be able to do a wager, a side bet wager. I don't think the board would allow it. I mean, I'm not sure sportsmen are really allowed to do that. There was a time, I think, but I really don't think they're allowed to do it.
Well, mentioning that, Eddie Hearn confirmed in an interview with IFL TV earlier today that he won't be able to take the bet and that the board have been in touch about it.
Yeah,
And they've
I
sent
missed it.
emails
Yeah,
to all participants or all involved saying, under Regulation 30, I believe, saying that any license holder who's participating in the event, they cannot be influencing any betting or anything like that. So,
well, it stands to reason, doesn't it? It's like because underhand things can then go on, and people can do deals and all these kind of things. But I mean, as a top line, it's fascinating. But I don't think Chris Eubank should be putting. I don't think I see him as a favourite. Just let's say I've missed the news this morning because I've been dealing with some things. But
mm,
the let's say he did put that money down on a bet and it's 10% of his purse or 12% of his purse. He can't guarantee he's going to win in that way. He can't guarantee it. He doesn't know what's going to happen. He could rupture a knee in the first round or after 4 rounds and he loses on a technical decision. So, so technical stoppage. So the it was just a bit of brinkmanship. Him saying how confident he is against Conor Benn. But I see two very confident guys. If anything, Conor Benn looks more confident than Chris Eubank when he puts his energy out there. And he's going to go for it in that fight, even though I don't think he's going to be as wild as he claims he's going to be, because they've got to use educated pressure, which is always the key. Those two words, educated pressure, in these scenarios when you're a box fighter and a pressure fighter.
you mentioned obviously Chris Eubank Jr. going down this same road and he's found that line of calling Conor Benn a cheat. It still seems to not accept it. When I've sat down and I've watched this on Piers Morgan Uncensored video, I watched it on the way to Liverpool, and there's parts of it where even Piers Morgan starts backing Conor Benn and explaining to Eubank Jr. that he's been cleared by multiple bodies now. Do you feel there is a point where Eubank Jr. might have to accept it, or for as long as until the grave he can still sit there and say and stand on his word and say that if you've had found drugs in your system, you're a cheat?
No, I think Conor Benn. Chris Eubank has accepted that Conor Benn's been exonerated ref license, and as we know, I don't know if he's got it yet, but he's applying for a Boxing Board of Control license. I don't know if you saw my interview with Robert Smith. Have you seen where he was saying that yes, he is going to do.
Mm.
He is applying for a license, and he doesn't see any issue with him getting it. Whether it's actually officially there yet, I do not know. But what Chris Eubank Jr.'s look, he's deliberately doing it to get under his skin. Whether he believes he's a drugs cheat or not is irrelevant to this scenario. He's fighting the guy. He's signed to fight him. But he's just trying to make his point over and over again. We know how emotionally hurt Conor Benn was through the 2.5-year process. And he's just tapping away at that emotion deliberately, trying to get inside his head, trying to make him feel bad, trying to get those feelings back again. Technically, the point he's making is we haven't had full disclosure of all the hearing and matters. We haven't had full disclosure of all the medical stuff. We haven't had full disclosure of the words are escaping me right now. Sorry. The when there's something in your system, they use I can't remember the two words now. I'm sorry, I'm having a blank. It's in your system, so it needs proving against. They've gone around the houses and said that it isn't necessarily that there are. I don't know how much I can say about this. without it being um, strict liability was the term I
Mm.
was thinking about. But I was having a senior moment, not being able to remember. Strict liability. He's going down the strict liability line with them and saying you haven't proved it in strict liability. You're saying it wasn't in your system, that someone else has made a mistake. That's their argument at the moment. Yeah.
Mm.
And
Absolutely.
he's saying it was in your system because I haven't got any evidence to look at that someone is saying publicly it wasn't in his system, a mistake was made. That's the line Chris Eubank's using. But more than anything, because he's accepted he's fighting this guy, doesn't matter what he thinks about was in his system or not, he's accepted to fight him. And he's fighting him based on family and ultimately money. So that's why he's fighting him. He's fighting him for a massive payday, and it has captured public imagination on every level.
Absolutely. You mentioned what was it I was
Can
going
I
to say?
just mention before I forget, while we're on Ben and
Yes.
Eubank, I went to Michael Watson's 60th birthday party on Saturday. There's a little video I've put up where I interviewed him. It's on my YouTube channel, Gareth A Davies GG, in which I've done, and that Robert Smith interview's up there as well, by the way. Um, how wonderful to see Michael Watson, and how wonderful that Chris Eubank Sr. turned up to see him on the day as well. It gladdened my heart to see Michael because I've known him 27, 28 years now, and it's brilliant to be associated with him, to have walked the marathon with him all those years ago. And there's some details coming up, things he's going to do very soon that I'd like to share with you when that's very near.
Well, we look forward to hearing that. Just sticking with the Ben Eubank theme. We've now seen the two press conferences, an hour-long episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored with the two, and it's very clear to see what the demeanour is from the two of them. Conor Benn being very hot-headed, Eubank Jr., as he's been his whole career, very cool, calm, collected. Do you believe that Chris Eubank Jr. has well and truly got under Conor Benn's skin here?
Yeah, I think he's very calculated. I think he got under Eddie Hearn's skin as well, and Eddie Hearn gave up with him. You go back to those two press conferences, we spoke about it. He won them 10-8 in 10-point must system, no question. He got the better of everyone. Everyone came out there talking about him and his articulacy, his eruditeness, his all the ways, his perspicacity. Use all the big words you want. All the plaudits went to Chris Eubank Jr. and he got an enormous amount of, I think, support. I think he's managed to turn Conor Benn. I don't know if he's turned Conor Benn into the villain or he's turned himself into the hero for fighting who he says is a drugs cheat over and over again. But it's a very calculated strategy, like you say, cool, calm, and collected, but very, very calculated. And I think he is in Conor Benn's head.
Just lastly on that, towards the back end of the episode, Piers Morgan asked the two if they would like to shake hands, to which Chris Eubank Jr. ultimately denies the opportunity to shake his hand, but Conor Benn actually accepts the offer to shake Chris Eubank Jr.'s hand. Bear in mind, this was, I think, filmed within days after the Egging incident as well. Was that a shock to see, possibly, that Conor Benn was willing to
No,
shake his hand?
as I was watching it, I did not want them to shake hands because I knew Conor Benn was going to get his revenge. You know, of course he wants to be within an inch or holding Chris Eubank. No, Chris Eubank's played it right. Shake hands afterwards. Shake hands after a controversial decision. Shake hands when it's done, because this could be two fights. This could be Conor Benn early, Chris Eubank all the way through the middle, and then he exhausts or he gets exhausted, fatigued as the 35-year-old, and Conor Benn comes on strong again. Half the crowd think it's Conor Benn, half the audience on TV on the pay-per-view think it's Conor Benn, and half think it's Chris Eubank, and they've got to do it all over again. These names are associated by so much more than a boxing match. The biggest bloodbath, one of the biggest bloodbaths we've ever seen in the first fight, an enmity and a family rivalry, names that will stay to... These two names, Josh, Eubank and Benn, Benn and Eubank, sit together like Ali and Frazier. You know, like bacon and eggs, if you like, if I'm allowed to say that. You know, like salt and vinegar, but particularly bacon and egg. Um, or if you want double eggs Benedict on toast. But I made a terrible mistake the other day when I was with Conor Benn actually and Tony Sims at the launch of something. Did I tell you about it?
I don't believe you have told us about
No,
it.
it's the first time I'd seen. Well, I saw Conor in. I actually interviewed him in Riyadh when he went nose to nose with Chris Eubank on his weigh-in day. Um, but I went for a launch in London at a restaurant there. I can't remember the name of it in the city. And Tony Sims was there, and I just interviewing Conor Benn. Got a bit of audio with him. Had a chat to him for a Telegraph story, audio for Talksport, and I said, right, I better get back into the restaurant. We were having a private thing. It was when Charlie Sims was launching his new promotional company,
Oh yes.
Origins, I think it was called at that point. And I said, damn, I better get back in there. I've already ordered eggs Benedict and they're going to be going cold. And they both stopped and looked at me like they thought I was taking the piss. But I'd completely forgotten about the eggs analogy the whole time. And it was a funny moment because you forget. Because really, the eggs, for me, he denied that it was anything to do with eggs. It could have been eggs, who knows? But Victoria, his wife, wasn't on clomiphene in any way, as far as I understand, because he said at the time when the WBC said there'd been precedent for athletes testing for clomiphene when they'd eaten too many eggs. He said, I haven't been eating too many eggs, didn't he? Or he certainly pushed that away as a reason. Anyway, that was my morning story with them, and it went like they both looked at me like, "Are you taking the piss here or what?" And I said, "No, no, no." And I wonder what they were having a funny about. But I realised it was the eggs because my eggs Benedict was sitting there, and they were cold, unfortunately. But they saw the funny side of it. That's what I didn't mind in private. I don't think Conor Benn's hatred for Chris Eubank is real. I think he's annoyed about the egg. He'd got over it by the Thursday. Um, but I think Chris Eubank Jr.'s dislike, because he said he didn't hate anyone in that Piers Morgan interview, I think his dislike for Conor Benn is genuine.
Well, we look
Genuine.
forward to see how this continues to play
But
out.
they're earning 4 times what they would have earned two and a
But
half
yeah,
years ago. Controversy sells, fame sells, all those kind of negative, that tabloid headlines sell. So, you know, it's fascinating.
just lastly on that, do you believe we will see a handshake between the two once they have shared 12 or less rounds on April 26th?
No, I don't. I don't think we will. I don't. I think this feud is going to go on. It may not be the end of it. It may not
Wow.
be the end of it.
Gareth, just lastly from me, the WBO, they have ordered Oleksandr Usyk to take on Joseph Parker. I don't know if you saw Joseph Parker's call-out video he made, another one of his music videos to call out Usyk for a fight. Right move
What
for
was the
the WBO?
music? What was the music?
Oh, I'd love to be able to tell you if I can't remember it for the life of me.
Is it on his Instagram?
It's on his Twitter. I've seen a lot of people quote tweet it today.
Looks like we made it. Well, okay. It's saying am I playing music? I've just turned it off, so I don't want to cause any copyright issues for you. Um, Look, in my view, Joseph Parker has earned the world title shot, Oleksandr Usyk, because what he did in Riyadh against Martin Bakole, still taking that fight, doing it on 48 hours notice. Yes, Usyk against Dubois might be a bigger commercial fight in the UK, but right now I think Joseph Parker deserves the right to fight Usyk. If I had my way, I'd make Parker and Dubois still fight, and then one of them carries two belts into the fight with Usyk. You could still do that, and then you could have the undisputed. But in my view, Parker merits it more. I've spoken to Andy Lee. I've spoken to Spencer Brown. They would love him to get a world title shot next. But I think if Frank Warren gets his way and Dubois fights Usyk, I'd like to see Joseph Parker fight an Anthony Joshua or someone like that.
Just lastly, Parker versus Usyk, who wins?
I think Usyk beats them all at the moment, but I think Parker will give him a damn good fight.
Well, Gareth, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time and look forward to catching up again soon.